that you need. The structure of the event we'll start off with a talk from Sophie Antonelli from DTA Wales, and she'll be telling us about the legal structure of different organisations and kind of the different forms that you can take, and then also giving us a bit of information about the free membership for Development Trust Association Wales. And then we'll also have a talk from our membership officer, Vicky Cox, who will be telling you about the free membership to Heritage Network. This event is mainly aimed at community heritage groups who are thinking about setting up as an organisation, or maybe have just set up as an organisation, and it should give you a little bit more information about what you can do, and then also the advice and support that you can get from our two organisations. And then after these two talks, we should have some time to go through Q&A, and if any of you have any questions, you can either put them in the chat ahead of time or let us know in the Q&A section. Okay, so for the first part, I will hand over to Sophie and let her tell you about legal structures as well as DTA Wales. Thanks, Sophie.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm going to pop some slides up. While I do that, apologies for my lighting today. I know I appear to be kind of glowing from within. I needed to sit in near a window so I could be close to the internet. But yeah, you'll be looking at the slides anyway, rather than my glowing face. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. Just going to get these slides up. Oh. All right, is that displaying okay?
Yeah,
Super.
that's perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Lovely. So yeah, thanks very much for inviting me today. So I'm the head of membership and outreach at DTA Wales. I've actually been with DTA probably only for about 18 months now, but in my past I've been a founder, a volunteer, an employee, manager, a director, and a trustee of community organisations. So in my previous roles, so I worked for a long time for the national charity Social Farms and Gardens. So I've supported lots and lots of different types of community groups in lots and lots of different sectors and all over in different locations as well. So hopefully I've got reasonable amounts of kind of experience to share with you. I'll tell you a very little bit about DTA Wales first, and then kind of get into kind of the more detailed stuff of today. So just a little bit about us. So we are an independent and not-for-profit membership organisation. We support community-led social enterprises, groups and businesses across Wales. So we were founded in 2003, so we've been going just over 20 years now. And we support anybody that is not-for-profit, that is working, for or directly with their community. That's our kind of eligibility criteria. And we, as I said, we are a membership organisation, so this is a little bit about our membership. So we have a free membership tier, and with that you get just sort of newsletter. Members have the ability to list jobs and events for free on our website. We have a member-only Facebook group where people can kind of ask questions, support each other, that kind of thing. Our main kind of tier of membership is the paid one, so that middle one. And with that, you get kind of one-to-one support. We have some partnerships with different organisations where people can get free HR support, which is really helpful, free legal advice. And we have relationships with energy brokers and with insurance brokers as well. And you're also then sort of part of the organisation, so you can vote. And we do have a higher tier of membership, but that's only really when people want really quite a lot of support, and we don't expect most people to kind of be on that higher tier, and I don't think anyone is at the moment. So yeah, our main kind of membership sits in the middle, but the free one, which we introduced relatively recently, is growing. For the purposes of this as well, it's worth saying that we are also part of the Social Business Wales Consortium. So we deliver support to social enterprises in partnership with Compass, with Social Firms Wales, with Unlimited, and with WCVA. So once I've gone through the presentation, I can kind of let you know about a little bit of support that we might be able to provide specifically around helping to choose legal structures. Um, yeah, without further ado, yeah, legal structures is one of the topics that we get asked most often about, I would say. There is never going to be a time when this isn't something that we're asked about. The choice of legal structures can feel quite overwhelming. There's a lot of terminology involved that can sometimes feel really technical and quite unfamiliar. Um, I've got a bunch of slides which will hopefully help to unpack some of that. I know, as Isabella said, we've got a little bit of time at the end for questions. If you've got specific questions as we go through, do put them in the chat. I won't see them then because I'm terrible at multitasking. But by all means, do put them in. And then once I've stopped speaking, I'll try and kind of go back through. And if I can answer anything in more detail, I'll try and do that. Okay. So, yes, choosing a legal structure can be daunting. It's a big decision. It also is a kind of quite a big decision that needs to be made fairly early on in the journey of becoming a community organisation. So understandably, these people can often feel quite a lot of sort of pressure or stress around getting it right. Not least because changing legal structure at a later date, not impossible at all, but it can be really time consuming and it can be a real headache, and feeling like you're in the kind of the wrong one can feel can limit what you're able to do as an organization. So all of these terms, in a while, I'm going to talk through each of them in a bit more detail so that you can understand kind of exactly what each of them means. But what I would say is that sort of in figuring out which of these is right for you, it's really important that you spend some time, probably more time, to be honest, thinking about exactly what it is that your group is wanting to do, wanting to achieve, and how you want to do that. So I've met, in the time that I've been supporting groups, I've met far more groups experiencing serious issues and even conflict because they weren't clear on those things, rather than getting into real sticky situations because they've chosen the wrong legal form. So I've got some questions to put up first, and I would really say, if you're going to really spend a lot of time thinking about this, put your time into deciding and talking about what it is that you want to do before you get into all of this, because this will probably fall into place once you've got what you want to do really clear. Okay. So yeah, these are the questions that I'd recommend kind of asking yourself. And if you're in a sort of fledgling group, really talking about as a group, because it's amazing how often people within the same group will have different answers to these kinds of questions. So yeah, really get under the skin of kind of what is it that you want to achieve? What does success look like for your group? You know, where do you see yourselves if everything goes fantastically? Where do you see yourself being in 10 years' time? You know, do you want to be trading? Do you want to own land or buildings? You know, are you looking at kind of major fundraising? Do you want to employ staff? These kind of questions. And then you probably hate me for this question, but I also really think it's worth understanding at a kind of a deeper level. Why is it that you want to do those things? You know, what is the underlying driving kind of motivator for you as individuals and as a group to want to do those things? And again, it's fascinating that often different members of a group will have different answers to that question. And it can be, and I've seen it be, a source of conflict further down the line. So really kind of having clear understanding of why you're doing what you're doing rather than just what it is that you want to do is a massive help when you come to make decisions like this. And yeah, or if you come to like a fork in the road and you need to choose you know, certain paths, make decisions as a group, understanding those sort of underlying philosophies is really helpful. Who are your people? So often groups spring up from the passions of just one person or a small group of people, and they drive on that kind of individual energy. And once you've identified what it is that you want to do, it can be really tempting to just kind of crack on, get straight stuck in. But finding people that share that enthusiasm and drive that you have is a really crucial kind of step in growing a new organization. And it also means that when you're making decisions around, things like legal structure, you've got a few different voices and opinions to contribute, and those big decisions aren't just sitting on one person's shoulders. So yeah, I'd really recommend kind of finding your people and talking this through with them before kind of getting stuck in. And lastly, like thinking about how your group is going to work together. So when we join like a typical workplace, there's often a whole raft of rules, regulations, processes, policies. There's often an organizational culture. When we're setting up our own organization, none of that is there. And it's often really, really easy to assume that everyone wants to work together in the same way. And again, I've seen lots and lots of groups kind of come to not quite blows, but occasionally nearly, because everybody thinks that they're going to be doing things in slightly different ways. So taking a bit of time to agree how you want to operate and how you want to make your decisions is going to save lots of headaches further down the road. And some of that is also relevant when you're selecting a legal format. So yeah, those are the questions I think you should actually be spending lots of time thinking about. So when I had that kind of word salad up a few slides ago, there was a few phrases or words in there that aren't actually legal formats. So I kind of wanted to just shine a little bit of a light on those first. Not-for-profit. So not-for-profit is something that we throw around all the time. Oh, we're a not-for-profit, we support not-for-profits. Not-for-profit in itself is not a particular type of organization. It just means, as I'm sure you've guessed, that organization is not for private profit, is how we'd usually term it now. So it's a bit of a catch-all phrase. Not for private profit means that individuals within that organization will not be benefiting based on how much money that organization generates. So you can make a profit. In fact, we definitely encourage it, but that profit is then reinvested into the organization. It's used to further the social, charitable aims that you have as an organization. So that's what we mean by that one. The next one is social enterprise. So again, this is kind of a catch-all phrase. There's no one type of social enterprise. All it means is an organization that is trading. So yeah, there's some form of trading happening there, and it's got a social or a community purpose. Another catch-all, which obviously being from Development Trust Association Wales, we know quite a lot about. So development trust. This isn't a phrase that is in kind of circulation as much now, although it's used a lot more in Scotland. So development trusts are organisations operating in the UK that are community-based, community-owned and led. They are trading, and they are kind of social in purpose. So it could be a charity, it could be a company limited by guarantee, it could be any number of the kind of legal forms that I've shown you. So yeah, a development trust is not a defined legal vehicle. And the last one that I just wanted to kind of highlight is a little bit different. So, and it's a constituted group. So becoming a constituted group is often one of the first steps in becoming an organisation that a group will take. So a constitution is an agreement, it's an important document that sets out how your group is formed, how it will operate. You can often find templates for these. But what it isn't, it doesn't make you a legal entity in your own right. So it sets out how you will operate and how you will work for the benefit of the community, but it doesn't make you, it doesn't incorporate you. And really importantly, what this means is that any issues that arise from the operations of your group, any debts, any liabilities, ultimately fall on the members of your management committee. So people within that committee are ultimately personally liable for the activities of that group. So, and yeah, so that's just an important sort of word of warning really there around being a constituted group. The next step is around incorporation. So becoming incorporated makes your group, rather than just being a constituted group, it makes it a distinct legal entity in the eyes of the law. And now it can, and I will explain why I'm saying can in a few minutes, it can provide liability protection, although your management committee, in whatever form they take, are still responsible for making good decisions. They do still need to kind of, really think carefully about the decisions that they're making. And depending on what form you take, it enables you to trade, to enter contracts, to ask for donations, to apply for grants, to employ staff. All of those things would be quite difficult to do if you were a constituted group and had not become incorporated in some way. Now, I'm going to go through that kind of big word cloud. I'm going to go through each of those in a little bit more detail. And the key kind of considerations that I'm going to highlight are around who the regulator is. So that's who you're reporting to each year. Who are you filing your accounts with? Something on governance, so how the organisation is run and by who. So are we talking trustees? Are we talking directors? Are we talking a committee? I'm gonna touch on whether they are a legal entity. So are they in law a person or a body corporate, we would say. And that's important because going back to this whole question of who is ultimately liable for the actions of the organisation. I'm going to touch on whether the legal form has an asset lock. Now, you probably mostly have heard of the phrase asset lock, but it's typically used by organisations like CICs, community interest companies, or any kind of organisation with a social aim. And it's a legal kind of form or tool that prevents them from distributing assets. Assets could be buildings, assets could be money, funds, equipment to individuals for personal gain. So it protects that money or that building from being kind of sold off just for personal gain. Instead, it requires them to be reinvested or to be transferred to another organisation who has similar social objectives. So if your organisation was to become insolvent and you had to close down, if you owned, say, a community building in your area, it would mean that building would need to be transferred to another organisation that shared similar social aims to yourselves. And for some of the legal sort of formats that we're going to look at, that is built in, to the way that they're set up. I'm also just going to highlight whether the form is eligible for charitable tax status. So charities do not pay tax on most of their income as long as they use the money for charitable purposes. But some types of organisations can receive tax benefits. Okay, so I will run through them. And hopefully this kind of helps tease out some of the differences. I will at the end, because this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, I will also highlight some resources that go into this in a lot more detail, because I appreciate that this is a little bit of a kind of a bombardment of information. But yeah, I'm hoping that it's kind of a useful introduction, but it's definitely not exhaustive. Okay, sorry, I just need to move my notes. There we go. So charity first off. So this is an organisation that operates exclusively for charitable purposes. And when I say charitable purposes, I mean one of the 13 listed under the 2006 Charities Act. Google it. They're very broad. They include things like community development, things around heritage, prevention of poverty, but it does mean that you have to be operating under those purposes. You're reporting to the Charities Commission. Trustees govern the organisation according to its governing document, and really crucially, no, it is not a legal person. So trustees are liable. So bad decisions or, for example, failure to have adequate insurance can in some cases leave trustees personally liable for debts or litigation. It's really rare. It doesn't happen very often, but it's definitely a risk to be aware of. It can have an asset lock if that's been written into the governing document. And this is something that you'll see quite a lot. You know, it really depends on how you write your governing documents as to kind of what protections are built in there. And yes, it's eligible for charitable tax status because you are a charity. Okay. Very similar situation with charitable trusts. Still reporting to the Charities Commission, and this is kind of a legal vehicle, very similar to a charity that's set up to use or preserve assets for charitable causes. Yeah, and all of the other same things apply. Now, a charitable incorporated organisation is a relatively new corporate structure that was introduced in 2013. And it was introduced specifically for charities who also want to trade in order to fund their charitable objectives. And previously, charities that wanted to do this, you know, classically through charity shops or something like that, would need to set up a separate company in order to do those trading activities. But in 2013, they brought in a CIO. It's regulated still by the Charities Commission, so that's where you file your documents. It is a legal entity, so trustees do have limited liability for the actions. It can have a asset lock, eligible for charitable status, but is much, much easier to trade as that kind of organisation. So that's been quite a popular one. Community interest company. So again, this is a relatively new legal form that was designed to kind of meet the needs of mainly kind of businesses, but that were seeking to operate as a business with a social purpose. So this is yeah, looking to meet the needs of primarily social enterprises. So a new regulator was set up for it. So that's the CIC regulator. And social enterprises are required to pass a kind of community interest test to ensure that their activities benefit the community. This isn't governed by trustees, this is governed by directors in a similar way to a company. And there's additional kind of regulatory requirements, sorry, to ensure that there is community benefit. So directors in this case can be paid. They can be paid a wage, a salary, but they cannot receive profits or dividends like in the way that you might expect, like from a traditional profit-making company. Built into this is an asset lock. It's compulsory for CICs to have an asset lock. But they are not eligible for charitable tax status. They're relatively easy to register. Charities can take quite a long time to register. They are free to register, but it can, if you want to get someone to help you, it can be quite an expensive process because they're quite complicated. CICs are cheaper, it's £65 to register. You can, as a CIC, sorry, accept donations, accept grants. And you're eligible for most grants still, but not all types of grants. Grant funding is a little bit of a tricky area. Some kind of classic, you know, funders will only still fund charities, registered charities, but increasingly there are lots and lots of funders, particularly the sort of larger funders, who will fund not-for-profits that have different legal forms. So CICs or not-for-profit companies limited by guarantee. Yeah, there's a few, so it doesn't necessarily rule you out for most grant funding. Company limited by guarantee. So this is essentially a standard company model, and within sort of the model, there is considerable flexibility in the internal rules that you can set out in your governing document. So this is all about how you write your governing document. So you can make a company limited by guarantee not for profit if you set it out in your constitution. Again, this is managed by directors according to the governing document. So DTA Wales, for example, is a company limited by guarantee, and we are not for profit. So we have a board of directors, and in this case, our directors are non-executive, and that basically means they are unpaid. So they operate really similarly to how a board of trustees would for a charity. So you can still have that kind of advisory board. They just have a slightly different title. And equally, we could have kind of executive or paid directors. And again, people can be paid as long as it's not linked to the profit of the organisation. So yes, we are a sort of a legal entity. You can have an asset lock if it's included in your governing document, and it can be eligible for charitable tax status. So it depends on the rules written into your governing document there, but it is possible. Okay. IPSs. So this one and the next one that I'm going to go through are specifically models for cooperatives. So an IPS is for cooperatives who serve members' interests by trading or supplying them with goods or services. So it's only where you are trading with your members and nobody else. They're managed by committees on behalf of the members. And a community benefit society is very similar, but it's where a cooperative wants to trade beyond their membership. So yeah, it's governed by committees or officers on behalf of members, and within this form, there is a more secure asset lock. Okay. So that ends my whistle-stop tour of legal formats. I hope I haven't confused people even more. I've got a few really good resources on the subject listed here. So Simply Legal from Co-ops UK is great. And there are also resources available through Unlimited, through WCVA. We're in the process of writing our own. So there's lots more detailed kind of guidance available out there. And if you're looking to set up a social business, so an organisation that trades and has a social purpose, through Social Business Wales, we may be able to provide some free mentoring specifically to help you choose the right legal structure for you. So I would say I'll put some contact details up at the end of this. So please do contact us if that's something that you're interested in. I'm also just going to give a very quick plug because we have conference coming up in March. So I was saying before we kicked off, it's really nice to finally be able to gather in person again occasionally. So we are looking to do a couple of conferences a year. So don't worry if you're not in North Wales in March, we will be doing some more, and we tend to sort of try and travel around Wales. But this is an opportunity for all kinds of different not-for-profits to come together, and do lots of workshops, but also lots of networking. You know, all the best stuff happens in the lunch break. So yes, but this is the details of our next one. I'm aiming to have bookings live for that by the end of the week, but it is on our website. And lastly, keep in touch. So that's our kind of main email address. You're welcome to get in touch with us on there. And obviously, we're on most of the socials. You'll see that we've recently joined Blue Sky and ditched Twitter. So come and find us on there if you're on any of those networks. Okay, I'll stop talking now. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Sophie. That's really, really helpful. And some really interesting and informative and useful information in that. And I've just added your next conference to my calendar, so hopefully we'll be able to make that. But yeah, thank you for that. And I'll pass on now to Vicky, who's our membership officer at Heritage Network, and she can tell you all a little bit about the free membership that we offer with the network. Vicky?
Thank you. Right, let me share my slides. There we go. Right, hopefully you are all seeing that. Let me just move you guys out the way. Oh, what have I done? Oh no, I shouldn't have messed. What are you seeing now?
We've still got your slides, Vicky. Yeah.
Right, I can't see mine now. Let me stop sharing and start again. I knew this would happen. Right, hang on. Try again. Sorry, guys. Right. Okay. There we go. Right, let me drag you somewhere else. There we are. Right. Okay. Thank you. Apologies for that. Yeah, fantastic information from Sophie there. Thank you. And I'm quite jealous about your Carnarvon conference because that's where we had ours a couple of years ago. So you've got a great location. That should be really good. Right. As Izzy said then, I'm Vicky and I'm the membership officer for the Heritage Network. So we are the kind of umbrella organisation across the UK for not-for-profits and charities and other types of organisation working in the sector to look after the UK's built heritage. So if you're set up as, or you're looking to set up as a not-for-profit organisation, then you can join us as free Connect class members. And, you know, what can we do to help you? Well, we know that every organisation or every wannabe organisation is different. You've all got different objectives, different visions for your project. Across the network, our member organisations have got a massive array of different aims and purposes. So some are perhaps set up because the community wants to secure a future for a historic building they love, such as one of the historic pubs up in North Wales recently. For others, the building might actually be the secondary to their aims, and actually what their thing is all about providing support for the community. So it just happens that they need somewhere to base their organisation or offer their community services from, and a historic building fits the bill. So, for example, we've got an organisation down in South Wales who do circus skills for children. They needed somewhere where you can toss juggling sticks around, and guess what? An historic church is perfect for that because of the massive high ceilings. For some, the focus is on nature rather than the built environment, and they're out to increase biodiversity or protect historic green spaces. And for still more of you, it might be that you've got to focus on intangible heritage, such as language or dance, or perhaps on artifacts rather than architecture. But whatever it is you're looking to achieve, being part of the network can help you. And back to Sophie's point, yeah, it's really important that you know what your aims are, what you're looking to achieve, what your aims and purposes and visions are when you're thinking about setting out at the start. So when you're setting out, it can feel overwhelming. Identifying what you don't know, knowing that there's going to be lots of things that you don't even know you don't know yet. That's why being part of us can help you figure out what you do need to know and what you do need to do. So this idea of community heritage it's a very well-trodden path. We've got over 900 members and they've undertaken thousands of projects across the UK. So we've definitely got members who've already kind of been there, done that, probably got 10 years worth of the t-shirt behind them. We don't want you reinventing the wheel when it already exists. A much better use of your time would be to focus on your organization's specific needs that help you achieve your aims, rather than just going in and reproducing something that already exists elsewhere. So if you join as a Connect member, you get access to the first stage of our online toolkit of resources. You can chat to fellow members in the Network Hub. You've got opportunities to develop your knowledge by attending our events. And on top of that, you've got the network working for you to promote the successes across the UK that community-led heritage regeneration is making it better acknowledged and really kind of celebrating the success. And we also work to identify kind of member needs and trends within the sector so that we can work with others to highlight issues or opportunities, such as perhaps flagging up to funders where there might be funding gaps that our members are suffering from. Okay, so we're going to take a bit of a closer look at what our Connect membership can offer you. And because it's free, it's a great way to kind of dip your toes in the water, find out what the network's all about. And then when you're ready to upgrade, it's worth noting that both the Architectural Heritage Fund and the National Lottery Heritage Fund accept our network class membership fees as eligible costs within their grants. And if you're not going for one of those, it's still only £100 a year for network class. And Izzy, I'm going to ask if you can paste a link to our sign up page in the chat so that after this, if you'd like to join us as free Connect members, or if you feel like you're all ready to move on to network, by all means, sign up and come and join the network. So a few things then that you get with being a Connect member. So we have newsletters and opportunities bulletins. They go out on alternative Thursdays. The network news is actually available to everyone. So if you know people who would like to receive it, then please let them know that they can sign up. And I think Izzy's going to pop a link to the sign up form in the chat for me. And the newsletter features news from Heritage Network ourselves, but also from our members and the wider heritage sector. And it's also where you'll find all our exciting job opportunities and volunteering opportunities from ourselves and our members across the UK. So if you're looking for your next role, do check that out. Whereas the Opportunities Bulletin is a member-only feature, and that's where we share with you funding opportunities that we've identified across the UK and more locally, perhaps in this case specific to Wales. And also award schemes that you could nominate your project for to be in with a chance of winning some funding or the accolade that comes with it and getting in the new publicity. So it's a useful place to keep an eye on to help you promote and find funding for your organisation. You can also share your news with us and we'll help highlight it. So it can go on our website, in our newsletter, and if you tag us in on our socials, we'll try and spread the word on there as well. We're only a small team at the moment. There's only 6 of us and 2 of us are part-time, but we're growing and we're about to get a marketing and comms officer. So even more likely then that if you tag us in, we'll be able to have somebody at the other end pushing it out and helping share the news for you. So do keep us updated with what you're doing. And Connect members can advertise voluntary roles with us for free. So whether that's a call out for trustees to join your board, whether you're looking for green-fingered people to join your gardening team, or some, I don't know, Sherlockian sleuths to help you uncover the history of your site, just fire us over the details and we'll put those on the website and in the newsletters and on our socials for you. So to help get that interest of support for your organisation. So now I'm going to take you on a bit of a tour of some of our member-only areas. And the first of those is our toolkit. And this is our online suite of resources. It's going to help guide you through your project. So you'll find top tips, case studies, model documents, webinar recordings, signposted, all sorts of useful things. There are 5 stages to toolkit. Your free Connect membership provides you with access to stage 1 about your organisation. And that's because the most important thing to start with is to get yourself set up in the right way that's best to achieve your aims. So reiterating what Sophie said, it is possible to change later on, and we have had members that do it. But if you can get your organisation set up in the best legal entity from the get-go to support what you're looking to achieve, then that's got you on a nice right track to start with. So that's getting you set up in stage 1, and then once you've got yourself sorted, upgrade to your network class, and that opens up the rest of toolkit, and that'll look at things like sustainability for the future. And we've got a big section now on helping you to make your projects climate friendly as possible. So stage 1, so there's a whole host of different topics, and I'll fly you through toolkit in a second. If you aren't sure what structure will work for you, we've got an overview of the structures available, including some of the pros and cons and some model documents. But I will just stop sharing this and share my video for you, which will hopefully work. And that will fly you through. Apologies for doing this as a video rather than doing it live, but I never quite trust online. So here we go.
Right, I'll just take you through then a quick look at what we've got inside Toolkit. So when you land in our Toolkit, this is our landing page, this is where you end up. And you've got a number of different options for how to find things within Toolkit. So we've got a timeline, we've got themes, or you've got your search feature. As a Connect member, I find the easiest one to use is actually the timeline, because that way you can find things which you can access rather than finding things that you might not be able to look at because of your membership class. So if we have a look in timeline, you'll see first of all you've got a bit of a strategic overview, just kind of giving you an idea about the sorts of topics that you'll be looking at as you go through your project. And then if you scroll down, you'll get to stage 1, your organisation, and this is the bit that you guys as Connect members would be able to see. So if we jump on in, you can see we've got a range of different tiles leading you to different parts. So for example, if we have a look at setting up your organisation, you can see that we've got a range of case studies, links to different information pages. So we can see we've got all the different structures, the legal structures. We've got things like a glossary of terms that you can have a look at and download. And within these kind of different pages, you've got things like, you know, the pros and cons of your different types, model documents for your mem and arts and things like that. And if we have a look at, perhaps just kind of click on one of the case studies, You can see we have a case study which provides information about the project, an interview with the key person involved in it, and some kind of top tips for them, and perhaps links to their organisation or organisations that they found useful. So if we go back and have a look at perhaps one of the other pages, so maybe have a look at developing a strategic plan. And again, you can see we've got more links to different pages. If we have a look at one, so let's have a look at perhaps working with volunteers. You can see that a page might contain a whole host of different things. So it could be links to elsewhere on the World Wide Web that you'd find really interesting. It can kind of information embedded in the page itself. We can have things that you can download. There are embedded webinars that you can have a look at. Here's a member produced video thinking about, giving you questions to think about. And again, lots of links to useful things. One of the other things that we have are our top tips. And again, some of these are created by our members. You'll notice that some of our documents are also available in Welsh. So it tends to be top tips and case studies, which we have as bilingual. So you can see here we've got a whole range of top tips. Again, they've provided us with documents that you can download to have a look at. And lots of good advice, more videos, and then again, ways that you can connect with the organisation that provided them if you want to have a look. So this is Birmingham Conservation Trust, who are our members that run the Coffin Works. So there's some great information from them there. So that's the main way to kind of get through Toolkit, is popping in and having a look. If you're not sure and you can't find what you're looking for, do try using the search option, and it will come up with a whole load of pages. Just to point out that at the bottom here, it's not very obvious, but you'll see there are lots more pages. So have a look at those. You might find that you hit upon a page which says it's not available to you. That'll be because not all pages are available for free Connect members. Other things to consider in Toolkit then. Our case studies. And again, it will remind you at the top that not all of these are available to Connect members, but we have a selection of written case studies. And again, a lot of our Welsh ones are available in both English and Welsh to download. And if you scroll further down the page, if it will let me go back, let me just hop back in this way. You can see that we've got a load of past recordings of webinars, and lots of case studies. So some of these themselves will contain case studies, some are kind of straight up case studies of members, but there's lots to go on in case studies. Again, it'll depend on your membership type as to which one you can look at. And we've got some historic ones in here as well, which tend to be identified by the different backgrounds from when we used to be UK APT years ago, but they're still kind of interest. So they're all still on there at the moment as well, but they are older videos. But we're updating and adding to Toolkit all the time, putting new links in, adding new documents. So do keep an eye on it. You won't be able to see our services from members at the moment as Connect members. That is only available for our network or kind of individual members to be able to see, but we have partner members that provide things like pro bono services, so that's worth considering if you're thinking of upgrade later on. And also do check out the Talent Bank. You can access this from our main website as well. And if you're looking for information about what have I just done? I've just done an evaluation. What am I? So let's do that. If you're looking for people to do an evaluation for your project, it'll flag up our partner members who've already come recommended by the heritage organisation, so that you know that they are going to have a track record of working with organisations and projects like yours. So it's always worth checking those out if you're going out for tender for anyone. So that's Toolkit, and I will leave that off there.
So I just quickly got another one just to show you about the network hub. So let me just share that one. So I hate hearing the sound of my voice, so it always sounds different to how you expect. Right, here we go.
Had a look at Toolkit. We'll have a look at the Network Hub now. This is our other member-only resource. And again, access to this depends on membership class. So there are some bits you'll see and some bits you won't be able to access. But when you land on here, the first thing I'd recommend that you do is go and have a look at our discussion groups. And as Connect members, this is the only one you'll be able to access. The others are for paying membership classes only. But if you pop yourself into Welcome and just post in about yourself, your organisation, what you do, what you're looking to achieve, by all means put a link to your website, put some nice pictures of your project, because we'd love to see what it is you're up to and find out more. And the more information you can tell me, the easier it is for me to kind of match you up with useful resources or useful members. So you'll see we've got examples here of people introducing themselves. I'm linking them to resources within our toolkit, perhaps recordings of videos of ours that they might be interested in. I'm tagging them into useful contacts so they can start communications. And so there's lots of kind of useful stuff going on between kind of people introduce themselves and kind of helping to kind of make connections between people within the network, because, you know, you might be based down in south of kind of Pembrokeshire or whatever. We might have members up in the Outer Hebrides who would be a fantastic connection for you to make, but you might never come across them ordinarily. So it's a great way of kind of getting to chat with your fellow members. And you can actually kind of talk to them. If you click on someone, you've then got the option to message that person or follow the comments that they make. So if you think, oh, Bev's saying some fantastic things, I'll follow her, and then it'll keep you updated with what Bev's saying. But you can message each other directly through the hub. If we go back to the home for the hub, you might also like to update your organisation's profile. So you can, it'll show your organisation. We're in a fake org here. You can upload some photos, so we've got those so we can see more about your project. You can, if you want to be in our member directory, you can add a description, and then when you're happy you can uncheck the box and you can get listed. Tell us about yourself, any links to different websites that you've got, and any information about your legal structure and that. We're now doing our impact survey where we ask this as well, so you might want to, you know, feel free to leave this one free and just fill it on your impact survey, but that's available for you to fill in. We've also got Ask the Experts, where if you're looking for an answer to something you can't find perhaps in Toolkit, you can pop it in here, just a quick brief idea of what the subject is, your description, hit confirm, and that will send it through to us. We'll then pick up on that and have a look at it at our end. And then when we've got a response for you, we will, it'll appear in your previous queries and you'll be able to go in, and I don't think this one's actually been answered, but you'll be able to go in and see what has been said, any resources that we've linked you to, any documents that we've uploaded will all sit in there. So you can see any questions from your organisation go into there. Again, we've got links to things like the talent bank. If you need to give us an extra contact details, you can add that in there.
And that's that. I think, yeah, I think the main thing to say is like we can connect you with other people. So if you're curious about a different type of structure and whether that would work for you, we can match you up with our members who are already that type of organization, and you can then kind of have that communication, find out why did they choose that, is it working for them, does it sound like it would work for you. So it's really useful for us to be able to kind of match people together and kind of go through things that way. But I think that's me better leave off, otherwise we're not giving any time for questions, and I'm sure there's lots of questions for Sophie.
Thanks so much, Vicky. That was really useful, and you know, always good for me to have a refresh of the Network Hub and the toolkit as well, so that I can recommend different things to people as well. So we've got just under 10 minutes for Q&A. We've had one question through on the chat for Sophie from Sean. She's just asked, you've highlighted some questions that groups should think about when starting out. Can you give a few examples of how the answer to these questions would influence the choice of legal structure?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, the main areas where the answers are going to kind of influence your choice are around the types of activity that you want to do and the types of funding that you're expecting to be wanting to generate. So, one of the main questions is, do you want to trade? So, if the answer to that is yes, then I would definitely be looking at one of the structures that that makes that easier. So not a straightforward kind of charity. If, however, your aims are primarily charitable and you are anticipating most of your income being generated through grant applications and donations, then potentially a more straightforward charitable form might be more suitable. For me, I always still have that that question around limited liability for trustees in my mind. So for my money, a CIO might still be more appropriate. There's other things around, potentially whether you would want to issue community shares in the future. That's an option that's specifically for cooperatives, but it can be a really amazing way, to fundraise large amounts of money, through your local community, but also, really get people to feel invested in their own assets and to feel and to actually own them themselves. So if that is something that you're potentially looking to do, then I'd be saying look at one of the cooperative models that we touched on towards the end. But by and large, there's a lot of flexibility in these. As I said, it's kind of how you write those governing documents. It's the way that you shape it as much as it is the things that come predetermined with the particular legal form. So yes, the answers to those questions are kind of important, but it's as important kind of the clarity that you put around it as well. Vicky, do you want to add in there? Because you guys have got an awful lot of experience in this area too.
I think you're right. What I'd say is we've got members who have kind of transitioned between different different legal structures. I think the only one we don't have anyone as is an IPS, IPS, isn't it? But we've got community benefit societies. We've got we're promoting the other day, I think, is it Bramley Bass doing their community share offer at the moment. So yeah, we've had some members do some fantastic things with raising community shares, and it really does kind of help buy into the project from a wider community. I think we're seeing more and more members these days taking the form of things like CIOs and CICs and the likes. We're seeing probably fewer of the traditional. I mean, people sometimes refer to them as, building preservation trusts as if that was a legal entity, but it's that thing of it. It's not. Most of them were charitable companies limited by guarantee, but actually, I think a lot of our newer members are taking the more those newer forms of structure, just because perhaps they are a bit more flexible, or because you don't have to do the double reporting to Charity Commission and Companies House, depending on what you take. But I say we've got members who have all sorts of different legal structures. So if you're thinking about what's best for you, get in touch and we can put you in touch with a member who's experienced it and get a kind of first-hand discussion going about whether it would actually work for your organisation.
Perfect, thanks guys. We've had another question as well from Rebecca, just saying, do you have any information on the pros and cons of an AGM versus an AMM as part of a charity's constitution? So that could be for either of you, I suppose.
I'll let Sophie answer that. I'm afraid I don't know what an AMM is.
Neither do I. So I've only really operated with AGMs, and which are an important part of kind of charity, well, and other types of organizations operations, because it's when you kind of elect your whether it's directors or trustees. And I think that a lot of people just have very, very short AGMs just to sort of get them done basically, but they can be a really brilliant way to kind of engage people in the governing of your organization. So if you can, because they always come around really quickly every year and you're like, oh God, it's our AGM again. But if you possibly can, it's a good opportunity to kind of bring some new blood in and try and kind of, as much as possible, democratize the decision making in that organization. I know that's something that we kind of are trying to think about quite a lot within ourselves as a membership organization. But I would love to know what an AM is, and I can maybe give a better answer. Oh, an annual
Rebecca's just said
members meeting.
members meeting versus a general meeting.
Okay, so I mean that does sound like it's potentially connected to the legal form, so like a community benefit society. So yeah, one of the models where they are cooperative, I would imagine would be holding a members meeting, because that's, you know, essential in kind of the voting and governance. But AGMs would be typically held by some of the other forms that we've discussed, so charities, companies limited by guarantee, CICs, that kind of thing.
Perfect. Vicky, anything to add to that?
I just think perhaps in terms of that, think about when you're setting up what the quorum needs to be for voting at an AGM. If you're going to expand exponentially, do think about what's the likelihood of getting all of your members to attend, and perhaps, you know, what do you want and what percentage need to be there or whatever in order to make it quorum for voting on things that are required.
Which we've been doing in our own network recently because we've expanded over the last couple of years, and we had to change our quorum from half of the membership to a set number so that we could make sure that all of our votes were working. Andrew just wants to know if we'll be circulating slides, which I know that we'll be able to circulate ours, and the event will be recorded as well. But Sophie, are you able to share your slides as well? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
So we'll send slides out to everybody that's signed up. And then another one for you, Sophie, is just from Gareth. He said that your membership form is centered around your group of volunteers or your community, etc. And he'd like to join as the Wales lead for the National Churches Trust to cascade DTA support where appropriate as community ventures are forming. And so how best would it be for him to join?
It does sound like it might not be possible to join. So what we are working on at the moment is a partner member option. So it may be that it's more appropriate for you guys to become partner members. Now I'm still working on getting the wording and getting that set up on our website, but if you wanted to drop me a line, we could talk about that in more detail, because yeah, increasingly, you know, obviously there's lots of kind of networks and organizations working across Wales and across the UK. At the moment, our membership is set up to be kind of specific to either a geographic community or a community of interest. Actually, that might be appropriate here. But yeah, very happy to kind of look at partner membership as well.
Perfect, thanks. I can put you guys in touch following the event.
Great.
Okay, well, if there's any more questions, please either put them in the chat very quickly, or feel free to turn on your mic or your camera. But if not, then we will wrap up now, as we've just reached just after 3, which is perfect timing on our side. Very nice. Thanks so much, Sophie and Vicky, for all the information that you provided during the session. It's been really helpful and useful. And yeah, really, really great information. And I now know a lot more about legal structures and what we as a network offer and what you as a network offer. So that's great, and it's going to be really helpful to passing on to any community groups that get in touch. So yeah, hope that everybody has a great rest of their Wednesday, because it's Wednesday today. And yeah, thanks again, and see you soon.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.